Hi, Chris from Slick Cyber Systems here with Jim and Steve, and we're going to go over a couple more Q&A questions we got from online. We're going to share it with you and have Jim answer the questions that they have. You ready?
Sure.
I think
Why not?
I think Steve's going to get excited about this one.
Uh-oh.
It's about compliance, IT strategy, and long-term planning. So it's a little. I'm just going to say it. The first name, I don't know how to pronounce it, but the last name is Patel. I apologize. I'm just not great with that. So I'm going to say that they say, hello, guys. They're the CFO of a 40-person business that mainly does engineering consulting. They're preparing for a bid on several governmental and defense contracts, and they have some questions with regard to cybersecurity and compliance. So right now, the IT is, this part kind of scares me that they say this. Right now that their IT is mostly reactive. They don't seem like they have a I know, right?
They're doing government work, engineering government work, and they're reactive. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I guess this is their this is their impression of it. I don't know how true that is. No strategic oversight. I'm not laughing at them. I'm just laughing at the way it's written.
Wow.
They don't seem like they have a centralized control over updates or security policies, but they need to shift to a more mature, secure.
You think?
Secure posture.
You think?
Yes. What is your impression, and what are your first steps?
Holy blank. I'll put the beep in myself. Beep. Yeah, I like it. You know how many people are in this thing? I mean,
it says there's 40 person, but I don't know how many.
Good size engineering consulting firm.
Yeah, I don't know how many people. You know how that is in a lot of things. It doesn't mean that they're all engineers. They could just be 40 overall people.
That's still a decent sized consultancy. Wow. If you're just doing reactive, wow, you got an issue. You should be.
What they just feel versus what it actually is.
Well, you should be proactive. I mean, you're doing government work. You're an engineering firm. Now, did they say whether it was a civil, electrical, mechanical?
No.
So we don't know. Architectural, we have no idea. Man, I mean, this reeks of you need a real MSP in there like now.
Yeah.
Yesterday. Day before, year before, listen. I'm not busting on them, but I have to, because this is, look, government. I mean, NIST, right? It's got NIST written all over it.
Yes.
There's compliances that you must uphold, as when you're doing contracts like that. And again, engineering consultancy, let's just say it's, I don't know, architectural. I mean, I'm not an architect, I'm an electrical guy, but electrical engineer. But you've got to protect and you've got to follow these procedures and protocols as the government is giving you out. You're doing business with them. They expect you to be on par with that and to be following that. So you must have been answering surveys for many years and lying, or you wouldn't be getting jobs, unless this is your first. And if it is, well, then you better get in compliance before you submit it, and don't lie about it, because you'll probably go to prison for that. Be that as it may, I mean, this just really, to me, Chris, reeks of you need an MSP in there, and an MSSP that really knows the compliance issue of this, and man, I mean, there are so many pieces to this that's like you've got to start by looking at what is your discipline, what compliance, what NIST, or various compliances do you have to be fully adherent to. And then once you figure that out, then we need to put a plan in place as to what to put in to be able to make you compliant. But yeah, I mean, just hearing that out of the blue, I mean that's whew,
That's
wow.
a minimum. Get someone in there to start helping.
Yeah, you definitely should have an MSP, MSSP. We're both come in and take a look at that. I mean that's got some major implications, especially if you've done this before and you've been putting in contract work. Wow.
Well, again, we don't know the level of what it is. It's
No, I
kind
understand.
of vague, the statements, so
Yeah, I hear you.
maybe even the numbers of how large they are is kind of, could be 40 people, but it's, actually only 2 engineers and 40 other people.
Well, yeah. I mean, but I doubt that's the case. Typically, when I see an engineering firm, at least 50% to almost 2/3 are engineering types, and the rest is, office staff, what have you, to be able to. That is a good size engineering firm. It's not huge, but it's a good size engineering firm. Yeah. Now you need to step up your game a little bit and put some coin into the MSP level and let us help you, because that's pretty dicey.
I got another one. You ready?
Yeah, sure. Fire it up.
Okay, from Dr. Lee. We're going to leave it at that.
Medical. Okay.
Yeah, as the EHR slowness and compliance prep for IT strategy questions. They started out with help. It's always exciting when you get help.
Okay.
They run a dermatology clinic, and they have a growing client base, patient base. They're starting to notice that some of they're having some persistent tech issues. Do you want to guess what the first part is?
Well, EHRs. I mean, they're always, and don't tell me it's cloud-based.
Yeah, that's exactly.
All right, ding, 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 ding.
Cloud-based EHR becomes
Okay.
slow during peak hours, and they're worried it's going to start to affect patient care.
It will.
Okay.
It absolutely will.
Well, on top of that, they're starting to worry about what they have to do with compliance and audits.
Okay, medical. You're up under HIPAA guidelines. I mean, HIPAA guidelines are not. This is not rocket science. It is. I need to protect patient data, right? At all costs. That's your job. Is to not let data out that shouldn't get out. Don't let bad stuff in that shouldn't get in. That's kind of a no-brainer for any business. And
you're dealing with people's sensitive information, so it
absolutely
makes sense.
This is PHI, protected health information. You need to be. Well, let's talk about. You'd mentioned it gets slow during peak hours, right?
Yeah.
So if it's cloud-based, 9 times out of 10 says it's probably not the EHR doing that, depending on who you have.
Yeah, true.
There are a ton of EHR providers, and they're all doing bloody cloud-based stuff today, and some are doing local, some are doing both.
There are some that are just specifically towards this like a niche.
You have like an Epic, right? Epic's, McKesson's monster. I mean, that's not slowing down. They have massive data farms. The slowdown, if it's something like Epic or similar, if it's a derm place, I doubt they're running Epic. That's more along the hospital line, critical care, that kind of stuff. So I would say now we're probably looking at either a small EHR up in the cloud, or even if they are good. This could be ISP related, where they just don't have enough bandwidth to be able to handle all of their users in the course of a day. Mm-hmm. It could be their bloody firewall. I mean, if you undercut the size of your firewall, and let's just say it is a true UTM appliance, Unified Threat Management appliance. If you undersize that, it can only do so much. And until you upgrade to more processors, faster processors, that kind of stuff inside of your appliance, and so that really becomes an issue of, in my opinion, that would be the first couple things I'd look at. What's your speed? What's your bandwidth? Do some traffic analysis, see what it is, and then what firewall UTM are you running? If you're just running a generic firewall, like your cable providers, firewall. No, danger, Will Robinson. Anyways, you need a real one, which again helps with HIPAA compliance, because using the providers, the ISP providers, generic device is not HIPAA compliant, folks. It's just not. You need a real firewall in place, a real UTM appliance in place. That is law. So that would be the first thing that I'd look at. That sounds to me like the number one thing I'd look at is the border security and the
The
firewall itself and the ISP, the bandwidth. And then from there, you may very well have a situation where the EHR is just not capable of delivering what you need to deliver. It could be a small one, and again, there's a ton of small ones. So you may have to let go at that point and move to somebody else.
They're on the phone. They call us right now. Outside of the obvious, doing getting on site, talking, probing the network. What's their first step outside of that?
Oh, you've got to call an MSP. So if you're calling us, the first thing that we would do is we would do a remote assessment of how many devices are in there. We would run speed tests on the internet, see exactly what it's doing, because maybe they're paying for 200 and it's giving them 50. You know what I mean? You don't know. We've got to look. You've got to look at those pieces first, and then from there, start to peel the onion back and look at it and go, okay, well, your border security, your UTM is inadequate, or you don't have one, inadequate. And then, obviously look then at the device security and all that kind of stuff, because maybe, some of their device security is causing them issues too. There are antivirus solutions out there whose names I will not mention that tend to just go and sit on a machine and slow it down to no end. And the harder you push it, the slower it gets, because it doesn't have an engine fast enough to be able to do what it needs to do efficiently. Not saying it's bad, but speed, right? Patient care is about performance of all the systems, including your nursing staff, your doctors, everything combined. I mean, we do a lot of medical, and we've seen issues like this before, and we've done a couple of tweaks here, a couple of tweaks there. If it's local, we've upgraded a server, and night and day, bang, now the thing's running, and patient care is back to being the primary concern, which it should be. That's the whole point of doing this, right? I mean, you're in the practice to take care of patients, customers.
Not fooling around with
not fooling around with tech and software. So I know it's a necessary evil today, and it can be evil, but
it should be no different than the old days of old, just filling out a form. It shouldn't be any more onerous.
Exactly, and so yeah, I would look at. I'd be looking at all that, including the efficiency of the EHR itself. I'd definitely look at that if some of the real inexpensive ancillary things don't fix that problem. I'd be looking at the core, the root problem.
Okay.
At that point, what could be the root problem?
All right.
Enough said. I have said enough about that.
Ready
I guess.
for the next one?
Yeah. Well, what the heck? Why not? We'll do one more.
Okay. You don't like this one? Fiona is the person that sends it this.
Fiona.
And they said they're, if you like a jam, they run a boutique creative agency. And they're knee-deep in high-res files, motion graphics, and campaign collateral. But what's their biggest issue, they said, is what they call file chaos. They've lost projects and versions and had designers overwrite each other's work. So they said they also have got a client portal that kind of, in their words, sucks and it's not secure and clunky. So what they need help with is their direction. How do they fix their file issues? Make sure that they're not losing files, versioning, and
so this is obviously an ad agency, I would assume.
Yeah, or creative, where they're making the creative and handing it off to another agency.
Okay. All right. So you're talking very large file sizes, probably many revisions of those files.
Yeah.
And just help me out again. There was a lot to pull in there quick.
So their main concerns, if you will,
I heard file chaos in there.
Yeah, that's what they called it. They called it. They said that they have. Let's see. They have. I apologize. It's a little bit long. Run a boutique agency, creative, knee-deep in high-res files, motion graphics, and their biggest issue is file chaos with the loss of project versions.
Wow. Okay.
So is that a structure issue first?
There's a lot of ways to skin this one. File chaos means, first and foremost, that your file structure on your file server is not organized properly. It's not efficient. Secondly,
they don't say in here whether or not they have IT team or they're working with anybody. So,
all right. So secondly, there is the issue of versioning and so I'll call it document management, right? Check in, check out, or check out, check in. So that's a possibility. I don't know if they're big enough to do that because they can be really expensive to implement and need big servers to make that happen. But even not, if you are, there's so many ways to go with this. At its root level, your file server needs to be carved up efficiently, where your directory structures are set, where every video is, where, and it should, in my opinion, for something like this should be project-based. So the project should have, its own entity. It's a project, right? It's kind of a once and done thing, because the next project's the next project. But all the versioning of those files under that, I mean, that's training your staff to when they're working on something, but say this is, version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5. So I think it's most simplistic level, the users that are doing this stuff need to be trained. If they're overwriting files for versioning,
sounds like a component of backup that needs to be included in this too.
Correct. So I was going to say, besides the training issue, if you're backing this stuff up on a very routine, let's just say every hour, by default, we can set the number of revisions, that a backup system is doing and holding at any one given point in time. Albeit that's not the right answer. To me, you should be training your people to do the revisions themselves, or running an actual piece of document management software that does that revisiting for you. Check the file out, you work on it. When you go to save, it saves as the next revision and it holds the other revision.
So,
that's perfect world, but again, very expensive.
If budget's a concern, at minimum, the file structure and how they save the files, where they save the files is paramount.
Absolutely.
And two, making sure that you back them up.
Did they say like where they're storing this stuff? Is it a local file server or is this going to the cloud somewhere?
It didn't say. I'm assuming it must be local, but it didn't say.
Well, that's what I would do if it was local. From a cloud standpoint, really kind of the same thing, right? You still need that strategy, that structure of per project, and if there's multiple people working on it, you better be in a cloud environment that's file server alike, where multiple people have access to that, and and that revisioning still needs to be a very big part of how they deal with this. Again, whether it's a Slickbox, a Dropbox, a Google Drive, Microsoft SharePoint. I mean, you've got to really be careful of that. So yeah, that's how I would handle that. Again, that would just take a really hard, deep look, and take a look at the file server, see what your employees are doing, interview many of them, and figure out what are they doing, how are they doing it, why are they doing it that way. Because it almost sounds to me like some people are doing it some way and other users are doing it a different way.
They're not all on the same page.
Yeah, not everybody's in the same, rowing the same way in the boat, which is going to make it turn and go backwards fast. So
circles.
Yeah, that's my opinion of that.
Okay.
Short and sweet.
Any thoughts, Steve? No.
Do you think anymore?
This is a snoozer for you?
You don't think anymore? You're on the way over there. It's like, okay, whatever, it's all good. It's getting the end of the day, it's getting tired. I'm not tired yet, but it probably will be.
Yeah, that's,
Anyways,
that's
I'm Jim, Slick Cyber Systems, Chris, Steve. Call us, 570-215-8888, crazy eights, woo. And it's slickcybersystems.com. You can chat with us there. Our phone number's there. Email forms. You can get in touch with us, and we'll be glad to help you out with situations. So hopefully we helped these folks that we were just talking to. Hopefully we're helping their needs, and
also, I think what would be helpful is, if you have questions, you can give us the questions. We'll pitch to the Jim, and you can kind of watch what his ideas are. Email them to us. It's on our form on our website, slickcybersystems.com, or email them directly. There you can find it also, an email to us.
Yep.
Whatever works for you on that end, or even respond to the video, I guess would be.
Sure, you do that too.
We do that.
Absolutely. All right. Well,
That's pretty much it.
Enough said.
Yep.
Happy
And last. Is anyone finding these helpful? I mean, like these kind of questions that are being shot at us, and we're sharing them.
Yeah, let us know. I mean, I'm hearing this stuff for the first time, so I'm just giving my first reaction and an opinion of them to hopefully realize, that a true MSP would, how we think and how we look at things. This is what I would attack first. This is what I'd look at first, and I think that's why you'd be watching the video to begin with. So to try to see what we would do.
Okay.
All right. Enough said. Have a great day, folks, and we'll see you in the next vlog. Cheers. If you find this content helpful, please like the video, subscribe, and share with your friends and your colleagues. Thank you.